Episode 7 of Peacemaker Season 2 delivers one of the most morally complex and thought-provoking moments in the series so far. This isn't the kind of episode that sets up a clear hero versus villain story, or a simple victory over a recognizable enemy. Instead, it throws us into a world where every character is flawed, every choice carries weight, and even the good guys can make devastating mistakes. At the center of it all is Chris, a man who's not perfect, not invincible, but deeply loyal to the people he cares about. Immediately following the shocking reveal of the alternate Oath X Nazi world in Episode 6, the show challenges us to confront the darker sides of human nature and reflect on how far we would go to protect our friends, our family, or even our own sense of morality. From subtle visual cues to layered character arcs, Episode 7 balances moments of humor, action, and gut-wrenching emotional resonance in a way that few superhero shows can manage. By the end of this episode, it's clear that Peacemaker isn't just about explosions or quirky one-liners. It's about exploring the complexity of good and evil, loyalty and betrayal, and the small, human decisions that define who we are. But before we get to the big reveals, let's break down the tiny details, the subtle Easter eggs, and the character beats that make this episode so memorable. The alternate Earth X timeline is one of the most fascinating aspects of this episode. At first glance, the world might seem like a simple what-if scenario, a playground for comedy or over-the-top action. But the show meticulously layers in small, almost imperceptible details that make it feel disturbingly real. Walking down the streets, Chris and Alt Hardcourt encounter German-style food instead of the familiar hot dogs and pretzels, hinting at a culture fully dominated by Nazi ideology. Even phrases and cultural references we take for granted, like the iconic "What's Happening" from 1950s African-American slang, or the widespread influence of rock and roll, are erased in this world, underscoring just how different and oppressive this timeline truly is. And yet, it's the smaller, darker details that hit hardest. Keith's stunned reaction upon spotting Adabio, quietly yelling, "One got out," implies the existence of the horrific camps referenced later in the episode. It's a chilling reminder that this isn't just a cartoonish version of Nazi victory. It's a fully realized dystopia where the most vulnerable are exploited and oppressed. The brilliance of this episode is how it shifts tone effortlessly. The opening scenes play for laughs, with visual gags and absurdities meant to keep the audience engaged. But by the time we start seeing the consequences of this world, the humor gives way to reflection and tension, forcing viewers to grapple with what it would truly mean if an alternate timeline like this existed. These contrasts between comedy and horror aren't just stylistic. They reinforce the moral questions at the heart of the story, preparing us for the personal struggles and conflicts that each character will face in the coming scenes. Once the episode moves into its action beats, it's immediately clear that these sequences are more than just spectacle. They're crucial for character development. Alt Hardcourt, who is completely untrained for combat, reacts with genuine fear to gunfire, showing us that even in a world of superheroes and supervillains, fear is natural and human. These early fights aren't just about who lands the best punch. They're about establishing the stakes and grounding the characters in realism. The editing amplifies this effect. Quick whip pans and clever cuts, like the almost imperceptible shot of John Cena executing a clothesline, keep the audience engaged while emphasizing the physicality and intensity of the fight without losing narrative clarity. The episode's title, Keith in the Night, initially seems like a direct reference to Keith as a villain in the making, and in part it is, but it also plays on Chris's stealthy infiltration of this alternate timeline. He blends into the world unseen and underestimated until the full extent of his actions and their consequences are revealed. This dual meaning adds layers to the storytelling, keeping the audience intrigued while reinforcing the theme of duality that runs throughout the episode. Every character has multiple facets, and what you see on the surface is rarely the whole story. By the end of the action sequences, we not only understand who these characters are physically capable of being, but we also start to glimpse their moral and emotional capacities, which are far more nuanced and engaging than any traditional hero-villain dichotomy. As the story unfolds, Alt Adrian gives Chris a deeper understanding of the Nazi Earth X timeline. This isn't just a narrative device. It provides context for the Sons of Liberty, a revolutionary group in this world fighting for freedom, contrasting sharply with their comic book counterpart, which is more ultra-patriotic and militaristic. The show cleverly explores how familiar groups can be reinterpreted under different historical circumstances. These characters aren't just archetypes. They're responding to oppression and injustice in ways that feel authentic. The dialogue subtly reminds us that life under this regime is dangerous and restrictive. Minorities, LGBTQ+ individuals, and even cultural icons are suppressed or erased entirely. This not only strengthens the episode's stakes, but also reinforces the moral dilemmas facing the characters. Chris's infiltration of this world is more than a plot device. It's a study in adaptation, empathy, and the difficulty of making morally sound decisions in a world where the rules are fundamentally unjust. Through these interactions, viewers are forced to consider the fine line between heroism and survival, and how even the noblest intentions can have unintended consequences when applied in a harsh, oppressive environment. Despite the darkness, humor and cultural references are used strategically to maintain audience engagement and provide emotional relief. The show includes Easter eggs like recurring bombs from previous episodes, as well as subtle jokes such as the Cheerios gag, Flamin' Hot Cheetos references, and even Scrabble words like blues, which carry additional meaning in this altered timeline. These moments are more than just comic relief. They reveal character, world building, and the absurdity of a universe under totalitarian rule. Even minor interactions highlight the differences between Earth X and Chris's original world, emphasizing how seemingly small details like song preferences, posters, or familiar foods can carry deep significance. These humor beats also serve as a bridge between action and emotion, allowing the audience to process the weighty themes while staying invested in the story. Each joke and reference is carefully layered to reward attentive viewers, creating a rich tapestry of narrative depth that keeps engagement high without slowing the pace. Episode 7 excels in character development, particularly in exploring relationships and moral growth. Hardcore's quiet, emotional gesture of leaning into Chris on the peace cycle speaks volumes about vulnerability, courage, and acceptance in the face of danger. Augie's reflections on his own moral choices and the way he advises Chris offer insight into how even flawed individuals strive to make the right decisions. Meanwhile, Audibio's struggles with her marriage and self-sabotage highlight the episode's recurring theme. Doing what you love and protecting those you care about often requires sacrifice, reflection, and confronting personal shortcomings. The show balances these intimate moments with the larger narrative stakes, ensuring that character arcs remain compelling and relatable. Viewers are drawn into these personal conflicts as much as the external action, creating a strong emotional investment that drives retention. The interplay of loyalty, moral ambiguity, and personal growth underscores the show's larger themes, reminding us that heroism isn't about perfection. It's about persistence, empathy, and the courage to keep trying, even when the world is against you. One of the episode's most striking features is its moral nuance. Characters we expect to be unequivocally good are flawed, and those we might write off as villains demonstrate unexpected depth and humanity. Augie's refusal to embrace Nazi ideology despite his position and Chris's acceptance of responsibility for past misdeeds underscore the complexity of moral choices. Revenge, loyalty, love, and self-sacrifice intertwine in ways that challenge conventional storytelling. Chris's ultimate surrender is a perfect example. He isn't acting out of fear or defeatism, but from a recognition of his imperfections and a desire to prevent further harm. This episode reminds viewers that morality isn't binary. It's a spectrum of decisions, compromises, and intentions. Even the world's worst realities are mitigated by small acts of courage, empathy, and personal integrity, emphasizing the show's commitment to exploring nuanced storytelling over simple spectacle. Every action, every line of dialogue, and every character choice reinforces this layered narrative, keeping viewers emotionally invested while provoking reflection on their own judgments and ethical frameworks. The episode also plants seeds for future storylines and potential universe-level consequences. The stable dimensional portal hints at Lex Luthor's strategic planning, and subtle teases of characters like Brainiac and Darkseid all suggest that the events of this season could have far-reaching repercussions. These moments invite speculation without making definitive claims, allowing viewers to engage with the narrative in a participatory way. What might Chris's actions in this universe mean for future crossovers or the larger DC multiverse? How will the less